to get our next guest on, Jimmy. What do you say about that idea?
I think that would be terrific. Whether it's Krista Hanna's The Women, Taylor Jenkins Reid's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which, by the way, we talked about just recently. Every best-selling book from romance superstar Emily Henry, including this month's pick for Reese's Book Club, Great Big Beautiful Life. Hey, if you've got somebody in your life who like it a romance or who like it a well-written tale, you've heard these books and maybe even read them. If you've listened to them, you know the voice of Julia Whelan, award-winning audiobook performer, author, actress, is an acclaimed former child star of TV shows like Once and Again, and is now a top celebrity narrator. I mean, this is like the A game. She brings hundreds of best-selling books to life with vivid performances and has amassed, this is what's so cool, by the way, I know people that give books a chance because they just simply like the narrator. Let me tell you something.
Yeah. And her in particular, if you've fallen in love with a book over the years, there's a good chance it was her voice.
Well, when Doodah Man wrote me on the book of Tube and the Tube of Face, and what he said to me was, he said, I've fallen in love with audiobooks. And our good friend Forod, by the way, over 450 audiobooks he has now listened to since he started to become a member of our Sleeper Cab library. April, by the way, through June is Audiobook Month.
Audiobook Awareness Month.
Yeah,
Be aware of your local audiobook.
Yeah, I mean, because, we got to care about these audiobooks. Because if we don't, who will?
Audiobooks need love too, guys.
Tell her good morning, please, Lindsay.
Good morning, Julia. How are you?
I'm great after that. Thank you so much for having me.
I was more convinced that you probably had hung up by now. Like, these people are just...
Like, what am I doing here? It's too early for this.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you were West Coast right now, right?
I am. I'm just in like a dream kind of fugue state right now, so very susceptible.
I get it. Well, what are you wearing? Not to be creepy. Are you in pajamas or are you dressed for the day?
I'm in like a lounge set. Let's put it that way. I'm half facing to the world, but I am actually currently in my booth because some gardeners pulled up across the street, and so I'm in my little panic room where it's nice and quiet, and so really, really leaning into the audiobook of it all.
I love it. Well, actually, it's funny. Last week on our show, I talked about Taylor Jenkins Reid and her involvement with the new Dixie Chicks musical coming up. Sorry, the Chicks. My bad. They'll always be the Dixie Chicks to me. I'm sorry. And so it's funny that Taylor Jenkins Reid has come up twice now with that and with you here this week. So we are happy to have you.
She's a very busy and prolific woman.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, we'll dive in because I don't know if you know or not, Julia, but our audience, the vast majority of our audience are over-the-road truck drivers, females and males. They obviously have a lot of time to consume, and audiobook is the perfect way for them to do so. So a lot of our listeners know who you are, have listened to you many times, and there's a real responsibility, I think, that comes with the putting our human voice out into the world and attaching it, especially to a piece of art like you do with books. I'm a songwriter and singer, so I feel the weight of that more and more when I really think about what I'm saying and how it's connecting. But I'm curious to you. I want to talk about that invisible power in the voice, where the connection lives, where people fall in love. And what do you think, Julia, it is about the human voice itself that can make fiction feel even more real, or that can make or break for sure an audiobook, and in your case what you do here? What is it about that human voice and connection?
That's a really good question, and I have to say that I think it's just that it's so elemental. It is so a part of the human being and what it means to be a human being. And if we go back to the very beginning and all of us gathered around a campfire telling stories, that predates a written tradition. It was all oral storytelling. And I think that there's just something that we are hardwired to feel connected to a human voice in a way that, is with the onslaught of obviously synthetic voice or text-to-speech or AI. It does a good replication, but what it can't replace is that very elemental component of human connection through the voice. And it's just a very intimate experience. I mean, during the pandemic, when people were so isolated during lockdown, I would start getting messages from people saying, you're the only voice I have heard for 3 weeks or something like that. And it just fosters that kind of connection and intimacy. And to your point about truckers, which is actually something I knew because if you have driven across this wide, vast country and you go into a truck stop, that's one of the last places that you can still find physical audiobooks. And so that was always interesting to me, and I would go in there and I would see that they were
Forgot about
still
that.
selling CDs. Yeah, back in the day. And I was like, oh, this is where they go. Libraries and this.
It's like old people
but I
go
think
to Florida and audiobooks go
Yeah.
to truck stops.
Go to truck stops. It's so true. But I think that's true too. That isolation of that particular job, and just the distance and the time, and hearing someone tell you a story, it just goes back to the very beginning.
I wanted to kind of pivot here. There's your word.
Pivot?
So I'll give you a line from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. You don't know how fast you have been running, how hard you've been working, how truly exhausted you are until someone stands behind you and says, "It's okay. You can fall down now. I'll catch you." And I think about the fact that so many people, when they heard that line for the first time, heard it from you. At some point, when you do these books, you have to read them for the first time. You have to let them hit you for the first time. And after a while, when you do them, you're doing them over and over again. So the danger, of course, is that the aura, the intent of the line, gets lost. Now, you're a very accomplished actress. So can you talk a little bit about how you make a line sound like you are discovering it for the first time, while at the same time having complete command of the apparatus in the presentation of the line itself? Did that make any sense?
It absolutely does. I mean, you're speaking actor language here, so for sure. I think that, it's a cop-out to say that's the job and it's just acting. The point of acting is to make something seem fresh. I will say that the difference, because you mentioned this in my intro, I started in on camera. As a child actor, I spent so many years doing that. And I will say that the main difference for this job is, obviously I prep the book ahead of time. So I'm reading the book, I'm making character notes, I'm understanding the tone of the piece, the voice of the piece, the individual characters. But then when I get in the booth, once all that prep is done, it's a volume job. Like, I'm doing 75 to 100 pages a day. And I'm just reading the book straight through. And it's not the same type of performance as when you're on set and you're doing 7 takes on your side, and then they're turning the camera around. You're doing 7 takes on the other side, and then you've got the master. That kind of repetition doesn't actually happen. So a lot of the, I'll listen back occasionally, but when I'm recording, I'm just trying to get into the flow of the story. That's the thing I'm trying to convey to the listener, and I don't actually want to do a lot of stop and start. So unless I feel like I could do it better, and then I'll stop and I'll go back and pick up a line. But for the most part, I'm trying to stay in that very fresh rhythm for the listener.
I'd like to hear, this is going to be a 2-part question. The first is 3 interesting facts about Julia, because here's the thing. I'm so curious, you're somebody who writes and performs and is a voice, but you're in these stories, and I'm curious how you keep yourself in there. It's somebody else's, a lot of times, art or writing, so it's you putting your heart and soul into it while not taking away from their message, which would be a difficult balance, I would think, and maybe that's something you do consciously or not. But so before you answer that, how you keep yourself in the art, tell our audience, so that they fall in love with you as well, if they're not already, 3 interesting, fun facts about Julia.
Oh, gosh. I really just read books all day.
That's interesting. That means you're smart.
Yeah, right. Fun fact. I am a certified tea sommelier, which is a little bit obscure, but I fell in love with tea, and
You're
back
witchy.
before this job kicked off, I thought I am a little witchy.
Yay.
Lots of brews.
Good.
And let's see, I am also, I founded my own audio publishing company last year.
Badass.
And I come from the great state of Oregon originally. And so I think I have this kind of very, a little bit rural, a little bit, I like being in nature. I like being quiet. I have that sort of background, but then throw in a little Hollywood and a little overpriced English degree, and you get whatever I am.
You are the perfect hashtag balance. So then the second part of the question, now that we know a little more about you, I've got a good picture of you. I definitely want to hang out with you. I will definitely stalk you, as Jim knows. I'll show up in your bushes, but I mean it as a total compliment. So,
Love that. Great.
yeah. So with that being said, how do you keep Julia in the story, but also not too much Julia, or is that even a thing? Is it the same kind of direct technique every time, or is it different as you shift project?
I really do feel that it is my job, as you said, to kind of get out of the way of just let the author's intention ride through. And that's where I think the writer part of me and the English major, literary theory part of me, looks at a text first and foremost saying, what is the author trying to say and how can I assist them in this adaptation process? Because that's what audiobooks are. They're the first, truest form of adaptation. And I will also be very conscious of a listener and what a listener maybe expects from me. And I think part of that is knowing that, when they sit down and they hear my voice, it's welcoming them into the story. So I never want to veer too far from what they would expect from me. And then I find the ways in a story to challenge myself, to try something new with a character, to have a different take. But for the most part, I really do feel that my job is just facilitating the conversation between author and listener.
I want to kind of piggyback on top of that because one of my wife and I's favorite audiobooks that we've ever listened to together was Michael C. Hall doing Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Because in so many ways, the novelty of first of it being Michael C. Hall, and then after about a chapter, it's like, nope, it's Stephen King's Pet Sematary. So you've done The Women, you've done The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you've done all of these, romance books as well, Emily Henry. Do you change your timbre? And it's, like I said, it's more of a detailed thing. It's still you not getting in the way. But do you find that you have slightly different approaches, and I don't just mean in tone, to different authors, if that makes sense? Because the way you're going to read a Stephen King book. Go ahead, answer the question. Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, for sure. Also, I just want to acknowledge that you pronounced timbre correctly, and that is a real audiobook word. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What does he win?
Nothing. You win a career in audiobook.
Yay!
Yes, I absolutely do. Depending on, look, if it's memoir, like when I did Educated, again, I was even more back foot than I normally would be, where I'm just trying to tell her story and kind of stay out of the way. If I'm doing romance, sure, there's more banter. There's also I'm dealing with usually playing the sexy hero component as well. And when it's thriller, like I remember doing a Dennis Lehane novel, again, I'm understanding kind of who the audience is, and I've got to kind of earn their trust so that then I can undercut it. Or the Cormac McCarthy novels, his last novels that came out that I did. There's a very, if it's very literary, again, I'm trying to. If it's romance, let me put it this way. If it's romance, I think I'm trying to be more conversational, more voicey, just inviting someone in, like, hey, we're all here, we're having fun. And, when it's something that's a little bit more one of those doorstop novels, I'm treating it with maybe a bit more gravitas. But I take everything that I'm doing seriously and trying to convey whatever the feeling of the book is to the listener. So yes, it does change the approach to my performance.
All right, I'm going to address the elephant in the room here, which is the fact that we have a lot of male listeners who might be saying romance novels. I don't listen to that when you do a lot of everything. But I want to negate that quickly and say, because I'm curious on the serious note of that, if you think romance gets unfairly dismissed in literary circles, because to me, just like a love song, it doesn't have to be delivered sweet and sappy. The way people fall in love, or the way they don't, or the way they fall out of love, those kinds of things to me is where so much truth lies and so much growth lies. It's how we understand ourselves. So I'm curious your take on that and the combating that, and maybe giving some. I think our male listeners in particular listen to a little more romance, and maybe it might help your own romance. Just saying.
Or since we found,
yeah, that's the secret.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the really underappreciated part of this. So you're right that this is predominantly a women's game, but at the same time, women buy something like 80% of fiction. So to be perfectly honest, we're not really concerned with whether men support it or not. I'm just saying that I wish they would, because I have a lot of fans, especially for my own writing, that they'll say, like, my husband and I, Buddy read this book. We read it together, and we learned so much. We get this a lot from the Emily Henry book, same thing. Like, I think, people have this idea of romance as one specific thing, and that's just not the genre anymore. It's not, the Fabio covers. Like, you can get any range of anything from, like, super, super smutty all the way to just, like, sweet, clean, romantic comedy. And
Smutty,
so there's a
smutty,
whole world out
smutty.
there. And I've done it all. So there's
Yes.
a whole world out there. But I do think that the places to start, at least anecdotally, the ones that I hear are the Emily Henry books are great because they're so funny and they're so smart. And these people feel like real people, and the men feel like real men. There's nothing intimidating about them. I think, my own little pet theory here is that a lot of men don't listen to romance because it, like, intimidates them. They feel
they see where they're lacking.
Yeah. But and I also, not to, like, hawk my own book, but I do think that my second book, Thank You for Listening, which is about two audiobook narrators who fall in love while recording a romance, but don't know who the other person is because they're recording under aliases, is, to me, like, I've heard from men that it's a great gateway book because, again, it's funny. It's about an industry that they might be curious about, like, what the hell is audiobook narration? And it's a character study. There's so much more going on than just the romance.
I also want to point out really quickly too, Julia, that if you were afraid of romance books and still want to hear Julia, Since We Fell, right, is the Dennis Lehane novel you did, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrific.
Yeah.
And I always tell guys, man, there's some Cormac McCarthy writing out there. What was the McCarthy one you did? I can't remember the title of it.
There were two. His last book, and I did the Passenger, which is narrated predominantly by McLeod Andrews, but then I have sections within it. And then the second book, which came out like 6 weeks later, is called Stella Maris.
Yeah.
And that is the character I played in The Passenger, but she has since institutionalized herself. And that book is written entirely as transcripts between her and her psychiatrist. And so we did it like a play. It's Eduardo Ballerini and me, and it's just dialogue, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's terrific, by the way. I couldn't think of the title because I knew The Passenger, but I'm like, I didn't realize you did, because I read that. I didn't realize you're the female voice in that, because it's a carryover, right? It's a companion piece. Yeah, guys, there's plenty of stuff beyond just the romance that you can dig into, and then you can ease your way into romance. I also did some
Michael Crichton. I'm trying to think of Michael Crichton, and also Michael Cardos. The writer Michael Cardos has a book that I can't remember the name of right now, but it's about a trucker, actually.
About a trucker.
All right, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second.
Okay,
hold on.
yeah.
We got to get people on that.
Michael Cardos also has one of my favorite underappreciated books of the recently, called Bluff. I think it came out in 2018, and it's fantastic. But the one before that, it's something like Before He Knew Her, or something like that. That was, I believe, about a trucker. Look, watch me be completely wrong on live. See, this is why I'm so used to doing podcasts.
Well, don't worry. Our truckers will quickly hop in the chat right now, and somebody will answer this question. So Julia, we ask all of our guests on this show because the first half of the show is about how we make our living. The second half is about how we make a life. So we like to, this portion of the show is the things you do on the road and, consume on the road, etc. So the three questions to you are: you're going somewhere this weekend, Julia. You can go anywhere you want, hypothetically. Where are you going? How are you getting there? And what are you listening to? And do you listen to audiobooks yourself? Are you like, screw that? Are you like the Carpenter's House is Falling Apart? Or
yeah, basically, I can't listen. I mean, because we're creating our own audio. I'm doing a lot of listening to audiobooks, but they're ones that I'm producing. So I'm not. I don't have a commute. I walk from my bedroom to my kitchen to my booth. So I don't have much opportunity to. But if I could be going anywhere this weekend, my husband and I actually have a little fractional ownership situation in Italy, and it's truly my happy place.
Amazing.
Because when I'm there, I'm able to just be writing and drinking the wine and just enjoying myself. So it's either there or it's I'm always happy to head to Oxford. That's my favorite city.
Amazing.
In the UK, yeah.
Okay, and what are you listening to along the way then? In your travel?
Oh, probably because I have so much narrative in my life, otherwise I'm usually listening to music. So, and have like my tastes are just like stuck in a certain time, and it's probably my parents' time, but I am, probably listening to some good road trip music. I'm listening to like Fleetwood Mac. I'm listening to Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Yeah.
We had them on the Friends of this show,
Yeah.
by the way. Friends of this
Really?
show. Yeah, really.
Tell them I love them.
We'll come to Nashville and we'll get you in a room with them.
Oh, I should have mentioned Nashville is also one of my favorites.
Come
Seriously.
on. Call me.
By the way, you have an open invitation to both Nashville and New Orleans now. We're broadcasting from both places with the newfangled technology. Julia, you're welcome back anytime. Happy Audiobook Month. Anything else you want to push before we shuffle off this radio coil?
No, just I'm on Instagram at just Julia Whelan, and the company that I started is Audiobrary, like library, Audiobrary, and we sign up for our newsletter. We really don't send out that many newsletters, only when we have a new project, and we are growing our library, and there's a wide range of stuff. I did not just want to do one thing, so it's a very eclectic collection, and I'm very proud of it.
As you should be, Julia. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to have you back. Any projects
great.
Any projects you're ever promoting, we will tag her on Instagram. Check her out. Have the best day. Go.
Thank you. Drive safe, everyone.
Well said. Thank you very much. Audiobrary.com is where you guys should go. We got to get out of here. Road Gang Radio continues.
We got to get out of here so we can come back here.
I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.